The Chat Sports Comment Challenge is back. Now, the last time we did this, one Falcons fan, Mark Carrazzo, commented 122 times on a video. Can anyone beat Mark's record? Light up the comment section with whatever you want, naming random Falcons players, just counting out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just comment a bazillion times, and whoever has the most number of comments will get a shout out on a future show. Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, talking mock drafts with you guys. Why? It's April, baby. So it is draft month. So we're going to ramp up our draft coverage here and just start to get some names on your radar with Atlanta's 8th overall pick in this draft. Now, we've seen a couple of different mock drafts for Atlanta go a variety of directions, which I kind of like for the Falcons because they can go a variety of directions. Now, the one direction they should go is just best player available. What's interesting is, what if the best player is a quarterback? Which kind of leads us to this. The first mock draft we are going to look at here is Cynthia Frelund, who had her second mock draft. Now, in her NFL.com mock draft, here's who she had the Falcons taking. Well, first, let's look at what she had 1 through 7 going. C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Anderson, Anthony Richardson, Tyree Wilson, Cancey, Carter. I mean, we've seen a lot of these very similar mock drafts. How about Carter falling all the way to the Raiders at 7, who already said, we're not taking Jalen Carter. But anyway, the Falcons at 8 select in this NFL.com mock draft, Will Levis. I'm not very ecstatic about this pick right here. Will Levis is going to get a GM fired. Let me just kind of get that out in the open right now. I've never been very high on the Kentucky quarterback. I just don't see this happening for a couple of reasons. One, I want to believe Fontenot is a smart guy and not a dumb guy. And a dumb guy would make this pick. So don't be dumb, Terry. Now, why would the Falcons already remove themselves from the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes if they want to draft a quarterback? I just think if they were looking to make an upgrade at the quarterback position, they would look into getting Lamar then, right? To me, this says it's a little counterintuitive of, we're not interested in Lamar, but we might draft a quarterback at 8. So are you interested in making an upgrade at quarterback or not, right? Sure, you can say, well, we just want to make an upgrade without spending a lot of money and costing picks. But it's only costing you 1 first-round pick. So are you in on Desmond Ridder or are you not in on Desmond Ridder? So grade the Will Levis pick for me. A, B, C, D, or F. I'm going to give it a D. I mean, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on Will Levis, but at the same time, I really don't think I am. I watched a lot of SEC football last year as a Tennessee grad. And Will Levis against Tennessee last year was atrocious. So when you look at his career stats, the guy couldn't beat out Sean Clifford at Penn State. Sean Clifford sucks. So how is Will Levis supposed to be good? Yes, he's got crazy velocity. There's a lot of cliches you're going to see thrown out there. But here's the thing with Will Levis. The ability for him to just whip the football out of his hand and on a spiral, on a rope to his intended receiver like that is very rare, right? Most quarterbacks have a longer progression to get the football out of their hands. His quick release and just overall velocity, he was clocked in at 57 miles per hour or something, blowing everyone else out of the water. The issue is he kind of sucks still. Sorry, Will, if you're watching, but I've just never been a big Will Levis fan. I do not like this pick for the Falcons. Now, something to monitor, though. I'm not the one making the pick for Atlanta, and the Falcons did meet with Levis at the Combine, but they have not scheduled another meeting or workout with him. So I don't know if the one meeting did not go well. I have heard some conflicting reports of Will Levis is bombing these interviews. He's going to fall to round 2. And then I've seen other reports of that report is the dumbest thing in the world. Don't listen to them. So it's smokescreen season, baby. Get ready for it. So the Falcons will not go quarterback at number 8. I do not believe they are selecting a quarterback at 8. I think they do like Desmond Ridder, and I think they are liking the odds of, what's best for the Falcons long term? Drafting a QB at 8, sort of forcing a pick, knowing that at 8, the top 3 quarterbacks are likely off the board at that point, which sometimes doesn't mean much, right? Josh Allen wasn't one of the first 3 quarterbacks in 2018, but maybe just take the best player available, get a good football player, and if Desmond Ridder does not work out, then you go for Caleb Williams or Drake May next year. So next up, we're going to take a look at Bruce Feldman's NFL mock draft, right? So we went Will Levis with Cynthia at number 8. Who is Bruce taking next in this mock draft? We're going to look at in just a moment. But do not miss any Falcons NFL mock drafts, draft rumors, targets, really anything under the sun related to the NFL draft and the Atlanta Falcons when you are subscribed here at the channel. So make sure to subscribe. And also, you can wear the the actual draft hats that the Atlanta draftees will be wearing in Kansas City when you go to chatsports.com/ATL hat. Get the exact same NFL draft hat the Falcons will have this year using our link. It's in the comments and the description of today's show. Now on to Bruce Feldman's mock draft. So similar to the last one, Stroud, Young, Anderson, Richardson, Carter. Now Carter goes to Seattle here. Tyree Wilson goes to Detroit. And Paris Johnson goes to the Raiders at 7. So who does Atlanta pick at 8? Lukas Van Ness, the do-it-all defensive lineman for Iowa. He's a defensive tackle. He's an edge rusher. He's a defensive end. He is just a quarterback-seeking missile, essentially, okay? So I like this pick for the Falcons a lot. It's a bit on the higher side of things. We have talked about Van Ness before. Throw on his tape at Iowa. He's just an extremely versatile defensive lineman. He sort of reminds me of TJ Watt coming out of Wisconsin. Now, when we look at the Falcons linebacker depth chart here, I'm not quite sure if they want to use him as a 5-technique defensive end or as a 2-stance outside linebacker. But whether it's, Lorenzo Carter, Caden Ellis losing their starting position potentially, I think adding more pass rushers to this unit is never a bad thing. So I don't think anyone outside of Caden Ellis should really feel safe by having a starting job. Michael Walker too, actually. But same kind for Troy Anderson. But the point I want to make here is that this defense is not at a spot outside of a few names where they feel like they have the starting job locked up guaranteed. Now, in Iowa City, Van Ness, 70 tackles, 19 tackles for loss, 13 sacks. I know 13 sacks in 26 games does not scream, oh, this is a great pass rusher. In my opinion, Iowa did not use him properly, and I think an NFL head coach will realize how to best get his talents out of him. For whatever reason, he was some of a rotational piece at Iowa, but since then, everyone's just looked back and go, wow, Iowa is really dumb at football. They can't even put up more than a couple of field goals and safeties in their first game against South Dakota State, and they also don't know how to properly use their best players. So would you draft Van Ness? Type D for draft or P for pass. I mean, I also want to draft him just because he sounds like he could have also invented Facebook. What a cool name, Van Ness. So use those comments to your advantage down below and let me know what you would do. Now we got another piece of a draft nugget here coming from Orlando Ledbetter, okay? Oh, we're talking free agency, my bad. Defensive end Calais Campbell. Arthur Smith said he wanted a violent defensive line, and I can bring a lot of violence. That's for sure. The Falcons should not be finished at adding edge rushers or just pass rushers, defensive linemen, however you want to call it. But Van Ness brings violence, right? Similar to Calais Campbell, he is not coming in here to slap titties. He is coming in here to bring down the quarterback violently, okay? So with that, it's kind of a fun pick to make here. Now, how does he stack up against the other edge rushers in this draft? Tyree Wilson is still my number one guy, but when you compare the stats from last season, Myles Murphy, Nolan Smith, Smith, he only played 8 games. The rest got essentially a full season in. All great prospects, in my opinion. Tyree Wilson is probably number 1 on my list. Nolan Smith might be number 2. I like Van Ness over Myles Murphy, though. So that would be my pecking order for those 4 guys there. Happy with any of those guys, if we're really being honest here, because the Falcons need pass rushers, but Tyree Wilson is still my number 1 draft target. This is complete draft cliche season, but to really bottle down Tyree Wilson, his size and speed should not allow him to be that flexible coming off the edge. That is something, a rare 3-triangle blend, you don't find very often. You often find guys who have a lot of size or have some speed, but to have all 3 along with just the bend and flexibility, kind of like Bosa for the Niners, just able to dip below the tackle, that is not tangible things you find quite often. So that is why Tyree Wilson is my number one draft target for a pass rusher in this upcoming draft. Who is your number one target, though? Let me know in the comments section below who your number one guy is. Be the GM for a moment and sound off. That is it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already, and we'll catch up with everyone later.